Hello and welcome. I'm Constellation Gaming, and this is Decklist December, where I'll be going through every single day inside of December and providing a deck list, whether it's something fun or something more towards the competitive end. Today, I've got something that I think is extremely competitive, especially with the new changes to the limit list. I think this can actually be one of the most potent decks. Um, just due to the fact that equal links and everything in Earth essentially was bust or was nerfed. So this I think could be the next strongest standing deck. Might also be Fire. It's kind of a toss up between the two, but I feel like this is a little more consistent than Fire is. Um, but I'll start off at 3 Astro Rabbit. By the way, I call this Hurricane Beatdown if you want to know. Just because it's the three colors of Hurricane that's coming out. I kind of want a more creative name than that, but I couldn't think of one right now. So, three Astro Rabbit. Look at the top three, pick whichever one you want whenever it gets water and or thunder enchanted. Then shuffle your deck. It's just extremely potent, one of the best Celestials in the game. And no, something to note, we are playing Galaxy. Galaxy says all water enchanted Celestials have their attack and defense swap, so you could always misenchant Rabbit and have a 5 attacker with Rabbit also. Uh, that's just a good thing to note. Playing Aramare is always gonna be misenchanted. Like it is just a 4 body that attacks misenchanted as water, and then if you play Galaxy, it doesn't really lose anything. It gains a stat line. It gains one attack if you play Galaxy, where pretty much anything else, if you're playing Nekroth, if you're playing your Sorlet, anytime you play Galaxy, it loses all ability to attack. So Galaxy is a lot of times misintuitive to misenchanting just because a lot of the stat lines are, like I said, the opposite. Like the Eddie you're playing has a one stat line. The Sorlet you're playing has a one defense. So if you swap that stat, then you're not really doing all that much. Arrowmare, however, you leave it in attack, it's a 4 attacker. You swap the defense with Galaxy, it's a 5 attacker. So it just gets better, unlike most water misenchanted Celestials. So that's why Arrowmare is in here versus like 3 Nekroth. Because in my opinion, Arrowmare is just an extremely slept on card, and this will see a lot of play, not for the effect at all, completely for the stat line. Next is 3 Eddie. Eddie says when you cast Eddie, you can change the position of an Celestial. Extremely strong. Just the only thing that nullifies Eddie is Gorgon's Gaze. Poison tipped arrow can't really do anything about it because if you're trying to crash or kill a rabbit, you just crash with it. You don't really care. Your goal is done. So Eddie will almost always serve as a 2-for-1. Same with a lot of these Celestials, no matter kind of what you do, most of the time they will serve as a 2-for-1. You're almost always going to end up being ahead no matter what they choose to do. Um, Next is Galaxair, also another card that, I mean, Tsunami gets around it and Gorgon's Gaze gets around it. That's pretty much it, because if they choose not to Gorgons it, and they're playing Astrabit or some. Oh, let me read off the stat before I get into it. It says you can target an Celestial and swap it to attack and defense until the end phase. So anything that says you can in this game is a once per turn. I think they need to clarify that and just say once per turn you can target an Celestial, make it more clear for newer players. However, that is the ruling. That's how it works. So every single turn you can target and swap the defense and attack of any Celestial on board. that includes possibly your own Eddie, whose stats have been swapped by Galaxy, that includes an enemy Astro Rabbit, that includes possibly even your own Galaxair that has been PTA'd. Because it just says target an Celestial. It doesn't say target another Celestial. That is something very important to keep in mind. So if, say, they have a 3 body and they don't say they have like Nemisail or something like that. They're like, all right, I'm gonna PTA you so you can't get over my Nemisail even if you swap the attacks, but then you can just swap your defense to attack and still hit over their Nemisail or something like that, or say an attack rabbit or something of that nature. Um, Next is Sorlet. We can misenchant Sorlet if we feel as though Tsunami is on the board. However, most of the time I do want to properly enchant Sorlet. I know a lot of people don't really care about properly enchanting Sorlet most of the time. However, its effect is extremely potent, especially in this deck. This deck is kind of running like a stat changing or yeah, stat changing or position swap type stuff. So running a Sorlet in here that says you can expend 1 win in order to change the position of an Celestial unless it's wind enchanted is extremely viable. The reason why I think this deck can be extremely viable is the fact that a lot of this just gets around so many counter runes, with the exception of Sorlet. Sorlet does kind of get hit by all of them. Galaxair, you kind of like, who cares if Galaxair gets shielded? Tsunami, it doesn't get around. Poison Tipped Arrow, it does get around. Gorgon's Gaze, it doesn't get around. So like, it gets around about half of the counter runes in the game right now. So it is still relevant, but pretty much all these Celestrals represent the ability to change the stat line to whichever one you optimally want, without having to rely on the awkwardness of the Veritaqua package that makes you have to have 2 separate Celestials, because all of these themselves, every single one of these Celestials can drop and kill something on their own, let alone if you stack their effects. So that is why I think this deck has the possibility to be something viable coming up. Um, Next, moving on to the runes, got a single copy of Atlantis. Main reason is just because we're running a lot of water, we're running Misenchanted, and so running the one Atlantis makes it so Aeromare is a possible 5 body, or if we run Sorlet Misenchanted, it's a 6. Uh, just honestly, it gets a lot of our Celestials to that 6 number. So that's just something to note, and that's something that's very important, but I don't want to see it all the time. It's not like it's a necessity. Most of the time we're changing the stats of our Celestials anyways. However, that one extra attack can make it to where, say, Eddie, for example, if you play Eddie, swap their attack for an Astro Rabbit, and then they Poison Tipped Arrow, playing Atlantis will force them to expend during the end phase to kill the Eddie. Otherwise, they won't be able to kill it, or it won't force you to crash. So that is something that is worthy of noting. Next, 3 Ambrosia, because Ambrosia is healing, and healing in this game just means you can play longer due to the fact that everything in this game takes life to play. So Ambrosia is extremely strong, and I don't think it will be not strong anytime soon. I don't know why that kept popping up. I'm sorry. Um, Next, 1 Earthquake, because we can run one and that's it. Target and destroy an Celestial. Just, yeah, nothing to really say about it. Removal is removal. Same with Resting on Your Laurels. It's a card that allows you to come back. I pretty much say it in every video that I include this in. This should not have been limited, and I will fight to my last breath that this needed to stay, because this game has very few comeback capabilities in it without this card. Maybe at a later date, that's a card that needs to go, but right now I feel like it's just does this game has very little ability to come back. Next, we're playing 3 Cryoblast. Cryoblast says target an Celestial that's not Frost Enchanted until the end phase, give it -2 defense. When the Celestial has 0 attack, you must destroy it. So a majority of the stuff in the game is going to be destroyed by Cryoblast. However, with the fact that we're swapping everything's position and everything's stats all the time, Cryoblast is more advantageous in this deck than most decks, because we like swapping the 2 defense is possibly more beneficial for us because we can swap their stats or swap their position or something like that rather than having to outright kill them with the cryoblast like a lot of people are forced to do. Next, 2 poison tipped arrow or 3 poison tipped arrow, misspoke, because removal is removal. Really nothing to get into about it. The -2 attack, sometimes relevant, not really going to be too relevant due to the fact that we do have some of the bigger bodies in this game, like like 4, 5, 5, 5. So pretty much a majority of our bodies pseudo 4. A majority of our bodies aren't really going to need PTA to survive. However, it will make it to where a lot of the stuff that's played doesn't have the ability to even crash with us. So, I mean, I guess it is the -2 attack is extremely strong too in this deck now that I take a closer look at that part of it. But the main reason is just for the removal aspect. 3 shield because shield is just for mainly for the big guy strategies, to be honest. Um, and also in case you just want to protect like your Arrowmare for a extra turn till you get your Galaxy, and then you would have 2 5 attackers, and maybe say that extra 1 attack makes it so you can actively get over something. Uh, for situations like that, also just keeping board advantage is extremely strong in this game, and we've got the room, so we might as well run as many counter runes as we can. And we're not really going to have too many spirits on board, so we're not going to want to run Altar. Altar's not going to do anything in this deck. 3 Tsunami, due to the fact that unless they're running water, it's just a complete nullification of the battle phase. And it's a lot more potent in this deck than most decks due to the fact that we're running water, so it's not going to change our positions like everybody else's. And also, if they're running water and like we can play our Galaxy in order to swap their stats, and even though we do have the Tsunami, we're not punished nearly as hard as we would be if we play other decks where we have the Galaxies in the sideboard. Next is 3 Gorgon's Gaze, because it's a 2 cost that says no to everything in the game. Uh, Target an Celestial if its effect is on the chain, negated until the end phase. That Celestial is suppressed and can't not receive enchantments, attack, nexus, or ascend. Just literally everything an Celestial can do. Uh, Finally, for runes, we have 1 copy of Zeus, because that's what we're allowed. Zeus, kind of the same concept as Cryoblast, also works with Cryoblast, by the way, because if you -3 something, then -2 with Cryoblast, more than likely it's not going to live. So Cryoblast plus Zeus is an extremely strong combo that works together, but also the same Zeus kind of works in the same manner as Cryoblast with a lot of this deck because we have the ability to subtract the stats and swap the positions. So Zeus is a lot like Zeus is the best divine rune in the game, hands down, no questions asked. Zeus is even stronger in this deck than other decks due to the fact that we're running 3 Cryoblast main and we're always swapping stats. So we're always going to end up with a Zeus that always is beneficial for us rather than like sometimes you have to crash after a Zeus. Most of the time you're not going to, but like if they're able to shield back one of your guys and then you have to rabbit crash one of their 5s or some stuff like that. This deck just never almost never going to have that effect. Uh, Spirit deck, 3 Zaptor, two Turretless, two Flurmine, five Lycoris, and eight Leviathan. I don't have a sideboard. Uh, to be honest, I just don't have the time right now. It's currently like 3 in the morning as I'm recording this, and my wife is about to graduate with her master's, so we've got to go do that today. So, but I wanted to make sure to get this recorded while I was gone. Uh, so unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to throw the side deck in here. I have played with this deck, not exactly this deck. I didn't have arrow mares in here, and there was a few changes in it that I have made, but this was a deck some very similar to a deck I've ran in previous tournaments. Just I don't really have a sideboard for it right now, and I don't have time to put one together. That is Hurricane Beatdown. If you like the video, give me a like and a subscribe. It would mean the world to me if you just take a few seconds to click those buttons. It does help out an extreme amount with being able to see it and do that. My goal is to currently get on the Illustrious Creator content, and I require 100 subs. So minimum, if you could at least give me that'd be very much appreciated. Just click that button. Thank you very much for your time, and you have a good day. I will see you on the next recording tomorrow.